Welcome to Night Whisper. Night Whisper brings you the darkest tales from the shadows. Join our community. Subscribe, leave a like, and prepare yourself for stories that will haunt your dreams. I'm a medical courier. I transport organs between hospitals. Last night's delivery was different. I've been driving the night shift for Biotransport Medical for 3 years now. In that time, I've delivered hundreds of organs between hospitals throughout the region. Hearts, lungs, kidneys, livers, pancreases. You get used to it eventually. The coolers in the back compartment. The constant time pressure. The way hospitals go quiet at 3 in the morning when you're the only person moving through their empty corridors. You get used to a lot of things in this job. The weight of a human heart in your hands. Approximately 1 pound. The way transplant coordinators never make eye contact when they take a delivery. They're too focused on the ticking clock and the patient waiting in surgery. The responsibility of knowing someone's entire future depends on you driving safely and arriving on time. You get used to the loneliness of empty highways, the darkness pressing in around your headlights, the knowledge that your cargo is more valuable than anything else on the road. Last night broke me. I need to tell someone what happened out there. Maybe if I write it all down, I can make sense of what I saw. Maybe someone will understand. Maybe I can convince myself it was real. Or convince myself it wasn't. Let me start from the beginning, before everything went wrong. My name is Tyler Morrison. I'm 32 years old. I live alone in a studio apartment in the northeastern part of the city, about 15 minutes from the Biotransport Medical Facility. My apartment is small. 600 square feet, one room serving as bedroom and living room, a tiny kitchen, and a bathroom that's barely big enough to turn around in. But it's mine. And more importantly, it's quiet. I need the quiet. Before I became a medical courier, I drove ambulances for Metro General Hospital for 5 years. 5 years of sirens and screaming and blood. 5 years of racing through red lights with someone dying in the back. 5 years of doing chest compressions on people who were already gone because their families needed to see that we tried. I've seen things most people only see in movies. Car accidents where the victims were so mangled we had to wait for the fire department to cut them out of the wreckage. Cardiac arrests where we shocked the patient 6, 7, 8 times, watching their body convulse with each jolt of electricity, hoping this time would be different. Overdoses, where people stopped breathing and we had to force air into their lungs manually, our hands cramping from the effort. I thought I'd seen the worst parts of medicine. The moments where life and death balance on a knife's edge. The seconds where one decision, one action, one breath can mean the difference. I was wrong. But back then, I didn't know that yet. Back then, I thought ambulance work was the hardest thing I'd ever do. It was the call on March 14th, 2023 that broke me. A house fire. Family of 4 trapped inside. We arrived after the fire department had already pulled them out. A father, a mother, 2 children, 9 years old and 6 years old. The father was dead on scene. Smoke inhalation. The mother was critical but alive. We got her to the hospital. She died 2 hours later. The children. The 9-year-old survived, severe burns, smoke damage to her lungs, but alive. The 6-year-old died in my ambulance. I did everything right. Everything by the book. Started an IV line, oxygen mask, monitored vitals, called ahead to the hospital, kept talking to her, telling her she was going to be okay, that we were almost there. But I felt her slip away. Felt the moment when her body just stopped fighting. She was 6 years old. Her name was Emma. She had blonde hair and blue eyes, and she was wearing pajamas with cartoon characters on them. I carried her body into the emergency room and handed her to the trauma team, who worked on her for 40 minutes before calling time of death. I went home that night and sat on my couch and stared at the wall until sunrise. The next day, I put in my notice at Metro General. I couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't feel people dying. Couldn't watch families fall apart. Couldn't live with the weight of knowing that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it's not enough. I needed a job where the cargo couldn't die in my hands, where my responsibility was clear and limited, where success was measured in temperature readings and delivery times, not heartbeats. That's when I found Biotransport Medical. The job posting was simple. Medical courier, night shift. Transport organs between hospitals. Excellent pay and benefits. Must have clean driving record and medical transport experience. I applied, got interviewed, started training within a week. The training was thorough. 2 weeks of classroom instruction on organ preservation, chain of custody protocols, temperature monitoring systems, emergency procedures. Then, 2 weeks of supervised deliveries with an experienced courier named Marcus Thompson, an older guy, late 40s, who'd been doing the job for 8 years. Marcus taught me everything: how to verify organ seals, how to handle the coolers, how to calculate time windows, how to drive fast without being reckless, how to deal with doctors and transplant coordinators who were stressed and demanding. He also taught me the unwritten rules. The organs can't talk to you, he said during one of our drives. That's the beauty of this job. They can't code on you, can't crash, can't die in your hands. They're already dead. Your job is just to keep them cold and get them there on time. That's exactly why I took this job, I said. I figured. He glanced at me. You got that look. The look of someone who's seen too much. Am I right? I nodded. This job is perfect for people like us, he continued. It's medicine without the trauma. It's helping people without watching them suffer. The recipient is already asleep in surgery when we arrive. We never see them wake up, never see them recover, never see them die if something goes wrong. Sounds ideal. It is. Been doing this 8 years and I sleep better than I ever did when I was working on ambulances. He paused. Just follow the rules. Maintain the temperature. Follow the approved routes. Don't stop unless it's an emergency. Get the organs to the hospital on time. Do that, and this job is easy. I believed him. For 3 years, he was right. The job was easy, predictable, safe, until last Friday night, until Providence Hospital, until I learned that Marcus was wrong about one thing. The organs can't talk to you, most of the time. Biotransport Medical is one of the largest organ transport companies in the northeastern United States. We operate 12 specially equipped vehicles. 24 drivers work 12-hour shifts around the clock. We coordinate deliveries across 6 states, working with 300 hospitals, dozens of organ procurement organizations, and the United Network for Organ Sharing. The job pays well. $65,000 a year base salary, plus performance bonuses for successful deliveries, full health insurance, dental, vision, 401k retirement plan, 2 weeks paid vacation, all the benefits of a legitimate medical logistics company. But it's not an easy job. It's never been easy. See, every organ has a specific viability window after it's harvested from a donor. For hearts, you've got 4 to 6 hours maximum from the moment it stops beating in one chest until it starts beating in another. Lungs are even tighter, 4 to 6 hours and that's it. Kidneys can last longer, up to 36 hours if the preservation is perfect. Livers have about 12 hours. But here's the thing. Those windows aren't suggestions. They're absolute deadlines. Every minute you're late cuts into the organ's viability. Every traffic delay, every wrong turn, every moment wasted means cells dying, tissue degrading, a transplant becoming less likely to succeed. And if the organ dies in transport, someone else dies waiting. That's the weight we carry every single shift. Not just the physical weight of the cooler in the back compartment, but the psychological weight of knowing. Knowing that a mistake means death. Knowing that someone is counting on you to get it right. Some nights I dream about the people I've never met, the recipients waiting in surgery, their families in the waiting room, praying for a miracle. Their entire future riding in a cooler in my vehicle, maintained at exactly 37 degrees Fahrenheit. Some nights I wonder if any of them know my name. If any of them realize that their second chance at life depended on a guy named Tyler driving carefully through the darkness. Probably not. We're ghosts in the medical system. Moving parts. Essential but invisible. My shift last night started at 9, like always. I arrived at the biotransport facility at 8:45. Gave myself time to check the vehicle before clocking in. My assigned vehicle for the night was Unit 7, a white Mercedes Sprinter van with medical decals and emergency lights. But the important part isn't what you can see from the outside. It's what's in the back. The rear compartment of Unit 7 is specially modified. Climate-controlled refrigeration system with triple redundancy. Temperature sensors that report readings every 30 seconds to both the dashboard monitor and the central dispatch computer. Automatic alerts if anything goes wrong. GPS tracking, tamper-proof locks, medical-grade insulation. The compartment can maintain temperatures between 32 and 42 degrees Fahrenheit indefinitely. The target temperature is 37 degrees, cold enough to slow cellular degradation and metabolic processes, warm enough to prevent ice crystal formation that would destroy the tissue. Every organ travels in a specialized medical cooler. Double-sealed containers, filled with organ-specific preservation solution. University of Wisconsin solution for most organs. Histidine tryptophan. Ketoglutarate solution for hearts, surrounded by ice packs to maintain temperature. Protected from any physical impact. The cooler goes into the compartment. The compartment locks. Chain of custody documentation is signed at every transfer. Everything tracked, everything timed, everything regulated by federal law and medical ethics boards. I've completed this routine over 500 times in 3 years. I thought I knew every possible scenario, every complication that could arise. Flat tires during transport. I'd handled 2. Traffic accidents blocking highways. I'd rerouted around 4. Severe weather causing delays. I'd driven through 3 blizzards and 1 ice storm. Equipment failures. I dealt with a failed refrigeration unit and successfully maintained temperature using backup ice packs for 90 minutes until I reached the destination. I'd seen it all, or so I believed. I completed my vehicle inspection at 8:50, checked tire pressure, verified refrigeration systems were operational, tested emergency lights, confirmed GPS tracking was active. Everything looked perfect. I clocked in at 9 exactly, scanning my ID badge at the dispatch station. Morrison Unit 7, the dispatcher said. His name was Richard. We'd worked together for 2 years. You got a quiet night, only 2 deliveries scheduled so far. 2? That's unusual for a Friday. Richard shrugged. Weekend before Christmas. Fewer scheduled surgeries, but we're on call for emergencies. Copy that. First delivery is a kidney, Metro General to St. Catharines. Should be ready for pickup at 9:45. I nodded. Standard run. I'd done that route dozens of times. Take your time, Richard said. No rush tonight. Famous last words. I arrived at Metro General Hospital's organ procurement bay at 9:43, 2 minutes early. The building was quiet, as hospitals always are late at night. Most of the staff works day shifts. At night, only essential personnel remain. Emergency departments stay staffed. Intensive care units, and the organ procurement team, who work whenever organs become available. Death doesn't keep business hours. A transplant coordinator named Janet Collins met me at the loading dock. I'd worked with her maybe 20 times before. She was in her mid-40s, efficient, professional, always focused on the task. She handed me a white medical cooler without preamble. Kidney for transplant, she said. Recipient is prepped at St. Catherine's. Dr. Phillips is waiting. I examined the cooler. The seals were intact. Tamper-evident strips showed no signs of disturbance. I checked the temperature gauge built into the cooler's exterior. 36.8 degrees. Perfect. I scanned the barcode on the cooler with my handheld device, connecting to the UNOS database. The information appeared on my screen instantly. Patient ID matched. Organ procurement code matched. Harvest time, 7:15 in the evening. Current time, 9:43. 2 hours and 28 minutes since procurement. Well within the safe window for kidney transport. Any special handling instructions? I asked. Standard protocol, Janet said. Dr. Phillips requested extra preservation fluid. The donor was 63 years old. They want maximum protection during transport. That made sense. Older donor organs require more careful handling. I didn't question it. Destination is St. Catherine's, receiving Doc B, Janet continued. You know where that is? Done it 20 times. Good. She handed me a tablet. Sign here for chain of custody. I signed electronically. The system automatically logged the transfer. Time, date, organ identification, my employee number, the vehicle GPS coordinates, everything documented, everything traceable. If something went wrong, they'd know exactly who was responsible. I carried the cooler to Unit 7. The cooler was heavier than I expected. Kidneys with preservation solution typically weigh about 3 pounds. This felt closer to 5. Lot of preservation fluid, I muttered. I opened the rear compartment and carefully placed the cooler inside. The compartment was small, approximately 4 feet wide, 4 feet deep, 3 feet tall. Just enough space for 3 coolers if we had multiple concurrent deliveries. Tonight, it was only one. I checked the compartment's temperature gauge, 37.1 degrees, within parameters. I secured the cooler with the built-in straps to prevent movement during transport. Closed the compartment door, triple-checked the latch, verified the lock indicator light was green. Then, I climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled out of Metro General's parking lot. The drive to St. Catherine's Hospital took me through downtown. Even at 10 at night, there was some traffic. Delivery trucks making late runs, taxis ferrying passengers, the occasional police cruiser on patrol. But mostly the streets were empty. I drove carefully, exactly at the speed limit. No sudden stops, no aggressive acceleration. The cargo in the back compartment was irreplaceable. As I drove, I thought about the person waiting at St. Catherine's. Someone whose kidneys had failed. Diabetes, hypertension, genetic disease, who knows? Someone who'd been on dialysis for months or years, their blood filtered by a machine 3 times a week. Someone whose quality of life had deteriorated to the point where every day was a struggle. Tonight, they'd receive a new kidney. A second chance, if I did my job correctly. The responsibility never got lighter, no matter how many deliveries I completed. St. Catherine's receiving dock was brightly lit when I arrived 42 minutes later. Right on schedule. Dr. Kenneth Phillips was waiting at the door, along with a surgical nurse I didn't recognize. Dr. Phillips was in his late 50s, gray hair, the focused expression of a surgeon who'd performed hundreds of transplants. He'd been at St. Catherine's for 20 years. He was good at his job. He barely acknowledged me as I opened the rear compartment and retrieved the cooler. Just took it from my hands, examined the seals, checked the temperature gauge. 36.5 degrees, he said. Excellent. How long since harvest? 2 hours and 48 minutes. Perfect. He turned to the nurse. Prep time to transplant is 90 minutes. We're well within the window. I handed him my tablet. Chain of custody signature, please. He signed quickly, his attention already moving past me to the surgery that awaited. The nurse was already wheeling a cart toward the cooler. I watched them carry it through the automatic doors into the hospital. Watched the doors slide closed. And that was it. My responsibility transferred. The kidney was no longer my problem. I climbed back into Unit 7 and checked the time. 10:38. I called dispatch. Morrison, Unit 7, first delivery complete, heading back to base. Copy that, Morrison. Richard's voice came through the speakers. Stand by. We might have an emergency pickup coming in. Copy. Standing by. I started driving back toward the biotransport facility. The streets were even emptier now. Past 11, most businesses were closed. The bars would stay open until 2, but the main commercial districts were shutting down. I was crossing the highway overpass when the call came through. Unit 7, this is dispatch emergency retrieval, authorization code Alpha 73. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Emergency retrievals meant someone had just died unexpectedly, a car accident, a stroke, an aneurysm, and their organs were viable for transplant. Copy, dispatch, location? Providence Hospital, north side of the city, emergency bay entrance. I felt a small chill run down my spine. Something about Providence Hospital always made me uncomfortable. I couldn't explain why. Maybe it was the way the building looked. Old brick construction, built in the 1940s, renovated but never quite modernized. Or maybe it was just the location, isolated on the edge of the city where the suburbs gave way to farmland. What's the cargo? I asked. Heart and lungs. Combined transplant. Both organs are going to the same recipient at University Medical Center. A heart-lung transplant was rare. Complex surgery, high risk, but if successful, life-changing. Time window? They're harvesting now. You need to be there in 20 minutes. Transport window is 4 hours from harvest to transplant. The surgical team at University Medical will be ready. Copy that. En route. I changed direction, merging onto the highway heading north. Pressed down slightly on the accelerator. 5 miles per hour over the speed limit. Not enough to risk being stopped, but enough to make up time. Providence Hospital was a 40-minute drive in normal traffic. At night, with empty roads, I could make it in 25. I made it in 22. Providence Hospital emergency bay was lit but quiet when I arrived. No ambulances in the bays, no patients being wheeled in on stretchers, just empty parking spaces and the hum of the overhead lights. I pulled up to the receiving entrance and killed the engine. A doctor I didn't recognize was waiting at the door. Older man, maybe 65, wearing surgical scrubs and a white coat. His name badge read, Dr. Leonard Harrison. He was holding a medical cooler, a large one, the size used for combined organ transport. Something about his expression made me hesitate before getting out of the vehicle. He looked tired. Not physically exhausted, but mentally, like someone who'd made a decision they weren't comfortable with. I climbed out of the driver's seat. Dr. Harrison? He nodded. You're the courier? Tyler Morrison, Biotransport Medical. I'm here for the heart and lungs. Yes. He walked toward me, carrying the cooler. It looked heavy. I've transported hundreds of organs. I know what they weigh. A human heart weighs about 10 to 12 ounces. A pair of lungs weighs approximately 1.5 pounds. Add preservation solution, ice packs, and the cooler itself, and you're looking at maybe 8 pounds total. The cooler Dr. Harrison was carrying looked like it weighed 20 pounds. That's heavy, I said. Extra preservation equipment, he said. His voice was flat, emotionless. This is a very important transplant. We can't risk any complications. I took the cooler from him. He was right. It was heavier than normal, maybe 15 pounds. What kind of extra preservation equipment? Specialized pumps, temperature monitors, additional solution, standard for high-priority transplants. That wasn't standard. I'd never transported organs with specialized pumps before. But I wasn't a surgeon. Maybe this was a new protocol for heart-lung transplants. I set the cooler down to examine it. The seals were intact. The temperature gauge read 37.2 degrees. The barcode scanned correctly when I checked it with my handheld device. Patient ID matched. Organ procurement code matched. Harvest time 11:43. Current time 11:56. 13 minutes since harvest. We were golden. Chain of custody documentation? I asked. Dr. Harrison handed me a tablet. I scanned through the forms. Everything looked correct. Donor information, recipient information, harvest time, transport authorization. But something about the donor information caught my eye. Cause of death. Pending. I looked up at Dr. Harrison. The cause of death is still pending? Yes. But you've already harvested the organs? The patient was declared brain dead at 11:15, legal death. The family consented to organ donation immediately. We proceeded with procurement while the cause of neurological death is still being determined. That was unusual. Typically, cause of death is established before harvest, but brain death is brain death. If the patient was legally deceased and the family consented, the procurement was legitimate. I signed the chain of custody form. Destination is University Medical Center, I said. Transplant team will be ready? They're prepping the recipient now. You have 4 hours from harvest time. That gives you until 3:43 in the morning. Understood. I carried the cooler to the back of Unit 7, opened the compartment. The temperature gauge read 37 degrees exactly. I secured the cooler inside, closed the door, checked the lock. As I turned back toward the driver's door, I realized Dr. Harrison was still standing there, watching me. Something wrong? I asked. He was silent for a long moment. Then, drive carefully. I always do. No. His voice was quiet, intense. I mean, drive carefully. Don't stop. Don't delay. Get to University Medical Center as fast as safely possible. I stared at him. Is there a problem with the organs? No problem. Just important that you arrive quickly. Doctor, if there's something wrong with the procurement, I need to know. There's nothing wrong. But his expression said otherwise. Just drive fast and don't stop. He turned and walked back into the hospital before I could ask anything else. I stood there in the empty emergency bay for a moment, watching him disappear through the automatic doors. Don't stop. What the hell did that mean? I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. Pulled out of Providence Hospital's parking lot. The drive to University Medical Center should take approximately 55 minutes via Highway 47 North and Route 12 East. With 3 hours and 47 minutes until the transplant window closed, I had plenty of time. No reason to rush. No reason to feel uneasy. But I did. The night was darker than usual, cloud cover blocking the stars and moon. My headlights carved tunnels through the darkness, trees on either side of the highway pressing close. No other vehicles in sight. Just me and the road and the cargo in the back compartment. I checked the dashboard temperature monitor. Compartment temperature, 37 degrees. Stable. Everything was fine. I'd driven this route dozens of times. I knew every turn, every mile marker, every exit. Nothing to worry about. So why did my hands feel sweaty on the steering wheel? The first 20 minutes passed without incident. Highway 47 North was straight. Well-maintained, speed limit 65 miles per hour. I kept it at 70. Not enough to risk being stopped, but enough to make good time. The temperature alarm beeped. Just once. A short chirp. I glanced at the dashboard monitor. Compartment temperature, 38 degrees, 1 degree above optimal. Not a crisis. The acceptable range was 32 to 42 degrees. 38 was still well within parameters, but it shouldn't have risen at all. The refrigeration system was designed to hold steady. I watched the monitor for another minute. 38 degrees. Stable. Probably just a sensor fluctuation. Nothing to worry about. I kept driving. 5 minutes later, I heard the sound. A soft thump from the back compartment. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The compartment door was closed, locked. The green indicator light was on. The cooler must have shifted slightly. The roads out here weren't perfect. Potholes, uneven pavement. Even with the securing straps, heavy coolers could move a bit. Nothing unusual. I focused on the road. Ahead. Thump. Louder this time. I looked in the mirror again. Nothing had changed. The compartment was secure. But something felt wrong. I've transported hundreds of organs. I know how they sound in transit. The gentle slosh of preservation solution when you go over bumps, the hum of the refrigeration unit, the soft vibration of the vehicle's engine. This was different. This sounded deliberate, like something was moving inside the cooler. "Don't be ridiculous," I muttered to myself. "Organs don't move. They're tissue, dead tissue." But the sound came again. Thump, thump, thump. Rhythmic now, regular, like something trying to get out. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My heart was beating faster. I could feel sweat forming on my forehead despite the vehicle's air conditioning. This was impossible. Harvested organs don't move. They have no electrical activity, no blood flow, no muscle function. They're dead, just dead tissue waiting to be transplanted into a living person. That's all they are. The temperature alarm beeped again. I looked at the monitor. Compartment temperature, 40 degrees, 3 degrees above optimal. Still within acceptable range, but rising. What the hell? I reached for my phone to call dispatch. Before I could dial, the phone rang. I answered through the vehicle's Bluetooth. "This is Courier Morrison, Unit 7. "Status check?" Richard's voice came through the speakers. "We're showing an increase in your compartment temperature. Everything okay?" "I'm not sure. The cooler's secured. Refrigeration unit sounds normal, but the temperature is climbing." "Current reading?" I glanced at the monitor. 40.2 degrees now. "That's still within parameters. Keep monitoring. If it hits 45, you'll need to pull over and verify the cooling system." "Copy that." I hesitated. "Richard, have you ever heard of organs moving in transport?" A pause. "Moving how?" "Like making sounds, shifting in the cooler." A longer pause. "Morrison, organs are dead tissue. They don't move." "I know that, but I'm hearing something from the back compartment." "It's probably the preservation solution, or the cooler settling. The roads out there are rough." "Yeah, probably." "Where are you right now?" "Highway 47, about 30 miles from the Route 12 junction." "Okay, you're in a dead zone for cell coverage. If we lose connection, don't worry. Just keep driving. You've got 2 hours until the transplant window starts closing." "Understood." "Call me if the temperature hits 45 degrees. Otherwise, keep moving. Dispatch out." The line went dead. I drove in silence for another 10 minutes. The forest on either side of the highway seemed to press closer. The darkness beyond my headlights was absolute. No other vehicles, no houses, no lights except the stars, which were still hidden behind clouds. Just me and the road and the thing in the back compartment. The thing. Not the organs. The thing. Why was I thinking of it as a thing? Thump, thump, thump. The sound was getting louder, more insistent. I looked in the rearview mirror. The compartment door was still closed, still locked, but through the small window in the door, I could see something. Movement. The cooler was rocking, not shifting from road vibration, rocking, back and forth, side to side, like something inside was trying to tip it over. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible." But I could see it. The white medical cooler tilting left, then right, then left again. Something was inside that cooler, something alive. The temperature alarm was screaming now. I looked at the monitor. Compartment temperature, 48 degrees. The cooler's internal temperature gauge would still be maintaining 37 degrees. The cooler was designed to be independent of the compartment, but the compartment itself was getting hot. Way too hot. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Richard had warned me. Dead zone. No cell coverage out here. I was on my own. The University Medical Center was still 40 minutes away, maybe 35 if I pushed it. I pressed down on the accelerator, 75 miles per hour, 80, 85. The speedometer climbed. I didn't care about speed limits anymore. I just wanted to get to the hospital, get rid of this cargo, get away from whatever was in the back compartment. Thump, 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 crack! That last sound wasn't a thump. It was the sound of plastic breaking, the sound of something forcing its way through a seal. I looked in the rearview mirror. The cooler lid was open, just slightly, maybe an inch, but definitely open. And something was emerging from inside. I couldn't see it clearly through the small window in the compartment door, just a glimpse of flesh, red flesh, wet, glistening, like exposed muscle tissue, like something that should be inside a body was now outside. My hands were shaking so badly I almost lost control of the vehicle. The steering wheel jerked left. I corrected, focused on the road. Don't look, don't look, don't look, just drive. But I could hear it. Whatever it was, moving in the back compartment, wet sliding sounds, like flesh dragging across plastic. The temperature monitor was flashing red, 55 degrees, 58, 60, far too hot. The organs would be destroyed, the transplant would fail. But that wasn't my biggest problem anymore. My biggest problem was the thing moving in the back compartment. The thing that shouldn't exist. The thing that was supposed to be dead tissue. I reached the Route 12 junction and took the turn at 70 miles per hour. The tires squealed. The vehicle tilted. For a moment I thought I'd roll, but I held it steady. 10 miles to the city limits. 15 miles to University Medical Center. I could make it. I had to make it. Something touched the partition between the compartment and the cabin. I felt it. Not just heard it. Felt it. A wet pressure against the metal divider, like something pressing its face against the partition. There was a small window in the partition, 6 inches by 6 inches, reinforced glass, designed to let the driver verify the cargo without opening the compartment. I didn't want to look at that window, but I couldn't help it. My eyes flickered to the rearview mirror, to the small square of glass in the partition, and I saw it. The thing. It was pressed against the window. Its face, if you could call it a face, filling the small square. But it didn't have features. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth tissue, red muscle, wet and glistening, like someone had taken a human face and removed all the skin, removed the bones, left only the raw meat underneath. And somehow, even without eyes, I knew it was looking at me. Somehow, I could feel its attention, its awareness, its anger. It pressed harder against the window. The glass creaked, and then it spoke, not with a mouth, not with vocal cords. But I heard it, inside my head, a voice that tasted like copper and rot. "Why did you stop?" I screamed. My foot slammed down on the accelerator. The speedometer hit 90, 95, 100. The city lights were visible ahead, close, so close. "You should have kept driving," the voice said. "The doctor told you, don't stop." "I didn't stop," I said. My voice was high, desperate. "I didn't stop." "You stopped at the hospital." "That was for pickup. I had to stop." "You stopped," it repeated. "You gave me time to think, time to feel, time to remember." The glass in the partition window cracked, a web of fractures spreading from the center. Whatever was on the other side was pushing, trying to break through. I couldn't look anymore. I focused on the road, on the city lights getting closer, on the hospital tower I could see in the distance. 2 miles. 1 mile. The University Medical Center exit appeared ahead. I took it at 80 miles per hour. The vehicle tilted violently. Something in the back compartment crashed against the wall. The thing screamed, not inside my head this time, out loud, a wet, horrible sound, like air being forced through torn tissue, like a death rattle played backwards. I slammed on the brakes. The vehicle skidded into the University Medical Center's emergency bay, came to a stop sideways across 3 parking spaces. I threw open the driver's door and fell out onto the pavement. 2 nurses were running toward me, a security guard, someone shouting questions. I pointed at the back compartment with a shaking hand. "Open it. Check the organs. Something's wrong." A transplant coordinator unlocked the compartment door. The temperature inside was 65 degrees. The cooler was sitting on the floor, lid closed, seals intact. Everything looked normal. "Get the organs inside," the coordinator said. "We need to assess viability." They carried the cooler away. I collapsed against the side of my vehicle, breathing hard. The security guard helped me to my feet. "Sir, are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" "No, There was something—" I couldn't finish. He looked into the empty back compartment. "There's nothing there now." "But there's nothing there," he repeated, firmly, like he was trying to convince both me and himself. 20 minutes later, the transplant coordinator returned. Dr. Elizabeth Thornton. I'd met her once before. Serious woman. No nonsense. "The organs are viable," she said. "Barely. The temperature elevation stressed the tissue, but we can still proceed with the transplant." "What about, did you see anything else in the cooler?" Her expression didn't change. "We found a heart and a pair of lungs. That's what we expected to find." "Nothing else?" "Nothing else." But her eyes said differently. Her eyes said she'd seen something. Something she couldn't explain. Something she wouldn't acknowledge. "The patient is in surgery now," she continued. "The transplant is proceeding. Your company will be notified of the successful delivery." She turned and walked back into the hospital without another word. That was 3 days ago. I called in sick the next day. And the day after that. This morning, Biotransport Medical called. They wanted me back on the night shift. There's another emergency retrieval. From Providence Hospital. I told them I quit. The woman on the phone, someone from HR I'd never met, said that was fine. But she also said something else. Something that's been eating at me ever since. "We appreciate your discretion regarding the incident on Friday night. Patient confidentiality is paramount in our industry. What you believe you experienced, you did not experience it. Do you understand?" "What?" "The medical transport was successful. The transplant was successful. Nothing unusual occurred. This is the official record. Any deviation from this record would be a violation of your employment contract and federal medical privacy laws. Do you understand?" "You're saying I can't talk about what I saw?" "I'm saying you saw nothing unusual. You transported organs. You delivered them. That's all that happened." The line went dead. I'm writing this because I need people to know. I need other medical couriers to know. If you get a call from Providence Hospital, if they tell you it's an emergency, if the doctor says, "Don't stop, don't take the delivery, don't open the cooler," and for God's sake, don't stop driving. Not for anything. Not until you're at the destination. Not until you're surrounded by people and lights and safety. Because I think I know what happened that night. I think the organs in that cooler weren't from a dead person. I think they were from someone who wasn't completely gone yet. Someone whose brain was dead according to the legal definition, but whose body, whose cells, whose consciousness was still fighting, still aware, still angry about being taken apart and parceled out to strangers. The doctor told me not to stop. He knew. He knew what would happen if I gave it time. Time to think. Time to feel. Time to remember what it used to be. Before they cut it up. The transplant was successful according to the official records. The recipient survived. The heart is beating in a new chest. The lungs are breathing someone else's air. But sometimes I wonder, does the recipient know? Do they feel something? Some echo of the donor's final moments? Some residual awareness trapped in the tissue? Do they dream about driving through darkness? About trying to escape? About being trapped in a white cooler while strangers cut their life into pieces? I hope not, but I'm never going back to that job. Never picking up another organ from Providence Hospital. Because I know the truth now. Sometimes what we harvest isn't quite dead yet. Sometimes it takes a while for the screaming to stop. It's been 2 weeks since that night. 2 weeks since I quit Biotransport Medical. 2 weeks since I've slept more than 3 hours in a row. 2 weeks since I've felt safe in the dark. I'm writing this from my apartment. It's 3 in the afternoon. I only go out during daylight hours now. The blinds are open. The lights are on. My phone is fully charged and sitting next to me on the coffee table, ready to call 911 if I need it. I've been trying to make sense of what happened, trying to understand what I saw, trying to convince myself that there's a rational explanation. But every time I close my eyes, I see it. The thing pressed against the partition window, the faceless mass of exposed muscle, the way it looked at me without eyes, the way it spoke without a mouth. I've done research, hours and hours of research. Brain death is supposed to be absolute, irreversible cessation of all brain function. No electrical activity, no reflexes, no response to stimuli. When someone is declared brain dead, they're legally deceased. Even if their heart is still beating with mechanical assistance, even if their body is warm, even if they look like they're just sleeping. They're gone. That's what I've always believed. But I've found things, articles, case studies, medical reports that are difficult to find unless you know where to look. There was a case in 2017. A man declared brain dead after a motorcycle accident. His organs were harvested for transplant. During the procurement surgery, the surgical team reported abnormal muscle responses, movements that shouldn't have been possible. The official explanation was post-mortem muscle spasms, residual electrical activity. Nothing unusual. But one of the surgeons quit the next day, retired from medicine entirely, refused to ever discuss the case again. In 2019, a woman donated her organs after a stroke, left her brain dead. Her heart and lungs were transplanted into a recipient at a hospital in Boston. 6 months after the transplant, the recipient started having vivid nightmares, dreams of being in an operating room, dreams of being conscious but unable to move, dreams of feeling her chest being opened. The recipient's psychiatrist diagnosed PTSD from the transplant surgery itself, prescribed medication. The dreams eventually stopped. But what if they weren't dreams of the recipient's surgery? What if they were memories? Memories from the donor? I found a forum, a private medical forum where doctors discuss cases they can't explain, cases that don't fit the textbooks, cases that make them question what they think they know. There's a thread about Providence Hospital. It's been active for 6 years. Dozens of posts from different doctors, nurses, transplant coordinators, all of them anonymous, all of them describing irregularities, organs that seemed unusually warm during procurement, tissue that appeared to resist separation from the body, hearts that showed electrical activity minutes after they should have been silent, lungs that seemed to move on their own as if attempting to breathe. One post was from a surgical nurse. She described assisting with an organ harvest at Providence. The patient had been declared brain dead after a drug overdose. Standard case, standard procedure. But when they opened the chest cavity, the heart was still beating strongly. Too strongly for someone who'd been declared dead 2 hours earlier. The lead surgeon said it was mechanical assistance from the bypass machine, told her to ignore it. They harvested the heart anyway. But the nurse wrote, "When we removed it from the chest, I could have sworn it was trying to keep beating, like it didn't want to leave, like it knew." She quit her job the next week. Another post was from a transplant coordinator. He described transporting a heart from Providence Hospital to another facility. During the drive, he heard sounds from the cooler, thumping sounds, movement. He pulled over, opened the cooler to check. The heart was floating in the preservation solution, completely still, exactly as it should be. But he wrote, "I know what I heard. And when I looked at that heart, I felt like it was looking back at me. I know that sounds crazy. Hearts don't have eyes. But I felt seen." He never transported from Providence again. The thread is full of stories like this, dozens of them, all describing the same hospital, all describing the same feeling. That sometimes what Providence calls dead isn't quite as dead as it should be. I tried to report what I experienced, tried to tell someone in authority. I called the state medical board, explained that I was a medical courier, that I'd transported organs from Providence Hospital, that something was wrong with their procurement protocols. The woman who answered was professional, sympathetic. She took down my information, said they'd investigate. 3 days later, I got a call from Biotransport Medical's legal department, a lawyer named Patricia Chen. Cold voice, no sympathy. "Mr. Morrison, we understand you've been making allegations about one of our partner hospitals. We need to clarify something. Your employment contract includes a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. You're legally prohibited from discussing any details of deliveries, procurement procedures, or medical outcomes." But something's wrong at Providence Hospital. The organs were successfully transplanted. The recipient is alive and recovering. The transplant was a complete success. There is nothing wrong. I saw something in the cooler, something that shouldn't have been. "Mr. Morrison?" Her voice was sharp now. "You saw organs, human tissue preserved for transplant. That's all you saw? Any other interpretation is a product of stress, exhaustion, or imagination. Do you understand? Are you seriously trying to... Do you understand?" I understood. I understood that they weren't going to investigate, weren't going to question Providence, weren't going to acknowledge that anything unusual had happened, because doing so would open questions they didn't want to answer. "Yes," I said. "I understand." "Good. We appreciate your years of service to Biotransport Medical. Your resignation has been processed. We wish you the best in your future endeavors. And Mr. Morrison?" "Yeah? Some stories are better left untold for everyone's benefit." She hung up. "I've been thinking about the recipient, the person who received those organs. Somewhere in this city, someone is walking around with a heart and lungs that I transported, someone whose life was saved by those organs. They're probably grateful, probably celebrating their second chance, probably looking forward to years of life they wouldn't have had without the transplant. But I wonder if they know. Do they feel different? Do they have thoughts that don't seem like their own? Do they wake up at night with the taste of copper in their mouth and the feeling of something trying to claw its way out of their chest? Do they dream? I dream every night now, always the same dream. I'm driving through darkness, empty highway, trees pressing close on either side, and in the back of my vehicle, something is moving. Something is trying to get out, something that knows my name. In the dream, I look in the rearview mirror, and the thing in the back compartment, it's not made of flesh anymore. It's made of light, bright, burning light that hurts to look at. And it's screaming, not with sound, with feeling, with pure distilled anguish. the scream of someone who was taken apart while they were still aware, still conscious, still trapped inside a body that had been declared dead but wasn't finished living. I wake up gasping, sweating, heart racing, and I know that somewhere in this city, the recipient is having the same dream. Because those organs remember, the tissue remembers, the cells remember, and they're still screaming. Last night I got an email. No sender address, no subject line, just a message that appeared in my inbox at 3:43 in the morning. The exact time I arrived at University Medical Center 2 weeks ago. The message was short. Thank you for the delivery. The patient is doing well, the heart is strong, the lungs are clear. But they keep asking why they can't stop running. They dream of highways, of darkness, of trying to escape from something they can't name. The psychiatrist says it's normal post-transplant anxiety. But you and I know better, don't we, Mr. Morrison? You and I know that some things don't want to die. Some things fight until the very end, and some things keep fighting even after we've decided they're gone. Drive carefully. You never know what you might be carrying. I deleted the email immediately, but I can't delete what it said. I can't forget what it implied. Somewhere in this city, the recipient is suffering. Not physically. Their body is healing. The transplant was successful. But mentally, psychologically, spiritually, they are haunted by something that isn't theirs, by memories that don't belong to them, by the final desperate thoughts of someone who wasn't ready to die. And there's nothing I can do about it. I don't drive anymore. I sold my car 3 days ago, took the bus to the dealership, signed the papers, watched them drive it away. I take the subway now, or I walk, or I stay home. Because every time I got behind the wheel, I felt it. That same sensation I felt that night. The feeling of being watched from behind. The awareness of something in the back seat. Something that shouldn't be there. The car was empty. I knew it was empty. I checked every time before I got in, looked in the back seat, looked in the trunk, confirmed I was alone. But the feeling never went away. So I stopped driving. I don't know what I'll do for work now. I don't have much money saved, enough for maybe 3 months of rent and food if I'm careful. But I can't go back to medical transport. I can't be responsible for carrying pieces of people who might still be aware, might still be conscious, might still be silently screaming as they're separated from everything they knew. I'd rather be broke and homeless than feel that again, than carry that weight. I'm writing this as a warning. If you work in medical transport, be careful. Pay attention to what you're carrying. Notice if something feels wrong. If a doctor tells you, don't stop, ask why. If a cooler is heavier than it should be, question it. If you hear sounds during transport, don't dismiss them. And if you ever get a call from Providence Hospital, consider saying no. I know the money is good. I know the job is important. I know people are dying while waiting for organs. But some organs come with a cost that's higher than anyone should have to pay. Some organs aren't ready to leave, and some organs will try to take you with them if you give them the chance. It's getting dark outside now. The sun is setting. The shadows are getting longer. I need to close the blinds, turn on all the lights, make sure my phone is charged, because the nights are the worst. The nights are when I hear it. A soft thumping sound, coming from somewhere I can't identify. My bedroom closet, the walls, the floor below me, above me. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of something trying to get out. The sound of something that followed me home. I tell myself it's just the building settling. Pipes expanding and contracting, neighbors moving around in adjacent apartments, but I know better. Deep down, I know. It found me. The thing from that night. The thing that was made of flesh and awareness and rage. It hitched a ride home with me. And now, it's here, waiting, watching, remembering that I'm the one who transported it, the one who heard it screaming, the one who saw what it really was. And someday soon, when I'm not paying attention, when my guard is down, when I forget to check the locks and turn on the lights, it's going to come out. It's going to show me what it feels like. To be conscious while your body is taken apart. To be aware while strangers cut your life into pieces. To scream without a voice while the world moves on without you. This is the last thing I'll write. If you're reading this, know that I tried to warn people. I tried to tell the truth, but nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to believe that sometimes the organs we transplant carry more than just tissue and cells. Sometimes they carry memory. Sometimes they carry consciousness. Sometimes they carry something that should have been allowed to die in peace. Do better than we did. Ask questions. Demand answers. And for God's sake, if someone tells you not to stop driving, find out why, because the answer might save your life, or it might destroy it. Either way, you deserve to know. Goodbye. Tyler Morrison, former medical courier, Biotransport Medical.